And welcome to Revolutionary Health, a program of the Counter Narrative Project. I'm happy that you had the opportunity to join us this evening. My name is Johnny Cornegay, and I am the Mobilization Director for the Counter Narrative Project. And I am joined by
David Malbranch, internal medicine physician, public health advocate, and just happy to be back. We've been on a hiatus for a few weeks.
We've been on a hiatus.
Yeah, so it's good to be back.
Hey, Damian Denson. I am a HIV researcher, scientist.
Excellent. So, couple of things before we jump into the show. So, you can go ahead and hit the subscribe button. So, if you are here and you are watching this show, make sure that you hit subscribe so that you can learn about all the upcoming Revolutionary Health as well as other videos from the Counter Narrative Project. Our mission, of course, is to build power among Black gay men and to work in coalition and solidarity with all movements committed to social and racial justice. Follow us on Facebook at Counter Narrative Project, on Twitter at Building Desire, and on Instagram at The Counter Narrative. So, tonight's topic, I have my tea for this, right? So we want to have this conversation. So social media, right, has as social media has become more a part of our lives, we've also seen this idea of canceling people become a thing, right? So it happens on social media. But it comes into our personal lives, and we wanted to spend some time talking about the complicated nature of cancel culture, right? It's not just a one and done. I know that we have seen so many complicated issues, so we just want to kind of have some dialogue. So if you are joining the show, please chime in. Listen, who are some folks that have been canceled? Have you been canceled?
Have you been canceled?
Right.
Have you canceled anyone else?
Who do you think should be canceled?
Who do you think should be canceled? And let's have some dialogue. So you could go right over into our chat box and let us know. So we have a couple of hellos. We're going to say hi to people before we jump in. So Jarrell is with us. He says, hello, gentlemen. Glad to be here.
Hey, Jarrell.
And happy to share with others. And Trey, Sam's World, is here.
Hey, Trey.
Hey, Trey. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure that you send us comments and questions. So here's where I want to start. First of all, what does canceling someone mean to each of you? I imagine that it's different. I know that I have a particular idea.
I haven't done it as much as Damien has, so I would defer to him first for this definition. Damien?
I don't really be canceling people like that. I observe the culture and I watch it. But I'm actually unsure whether cancellations actually occur. So I hope we go into that conversation. But I think there has been a historical, this isn't anything new to me. Blacklisting exists, and I think that cancellation is up under the umbrella of cancel culture is under the umbrella of blacklisting. So I'm unsure, actually, and I think there is a flippant, hyperbolous nature to cancel culture that I'm unsure takes the effect of blacklisting, and I think there's a middle ground or something murky in there that I'm not exactly sure about.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I agree with what Damien said, and I also think, I had to look up cancel culture before we came, because I was like, exactly what it means, because immediately what I went to when I knew we were doing cancel culture today, I was thinking to myself, how we cancel each other. But then when I looked up and I Googled it and I saw the definition on Wikipedia, it basically said, when you cancel, you have either political or moralistic views about something, and you cancel something or you stop using a product, like when you find out that Chick-fil-A doesn't like gay people or whatever the CEO was doing. So we were supposed to, maybe I wasn't supposed to say that. When you find out that a certain fast food company that we can edit that out in production, a certain fast food company don't like gay people, then you're not supposed to eat anything there. And so I thought about that, but I think for me really, when I came in today, and we usually, we start at 7, but we usually meet around 6. And we were talking, Johnny was updating me on, how his life was going, what was going on in his life. And then he goes, well, how are you doing? And the first thing I thought of was how I was scared to post my views about the Jussie Smollett situation, because I've seen so many angry people unfriending folks, calling anyone that questioned Jussie or thought that he may have told a mistruth or lied, an internalized homophobe and black self-hating, gay folks and da-da-da-da-da. And I was thinking to myself, oh shit, so I'm going to be one of those because I think the Chicago PD is fucked up. But I also think that he lied, and it doesn't make me think any differently of him as a person. I don't know him as a person, but I think that all of this has a weird taste to it. But I'm afraid to say that because a lot of people I truly respect and love are just kind of hardcore. Like, if you didn't believe Jussie from the beginning, then I'm going to unfriend you and fuck you. You're a self-hating homophobe, and you don't deserve to be in the black gay community. And I was like, I don't need any of that trouble or trauma in my life, so I'm just not going to post on it. Because I don't want to fight with people over this, because I can disagree with somebody about religion, about Jussie, about anybody. I think we all agree about R. Kelly and canceling him. Like, I don't think there's any ambiguity there. But, like, with Jussie and other situations, like, there's nuance to it. And it is complicated, so I don't want to be written off. And I don't want to write, I don't feel personally like I want to write people off, but I don't want to be canceled by somebody because of how I feel.
So I think it's a couple comments, by the way. So interestingly enough, James, hi James. James is like hashtag Team Jussie. Hi.
And I still love you, James. I'm hashtag Team Jussie, but he lied. Sorry. But I mean, I wouldn't hate you or cancel you because of that. I respect your opinion.
So Trey Sam's World says, Lord, I can't keep up with the cancel list. And as well, and that canceling comes from Black Twitter.
Sure.
So here's where I want to go in terms of, this particular conversation. And certainly we want folks to weigh in. This is not a show specifically about Jussie Smollett, right? This is a show about this kind of experience, right? So, but let's use this. Let's start with where we are now, right? So, we have this social media, which gives us the ability, right, to get our thoughts out as quickly as possible, and then people can respond to the thoughts that we have.
Right.
I agree with you in the sense that I have really been hurt by watching the discourse that tends to take place. And this is not just Jussie, right? I've seen this in other cases.
Right.
There's this discourse that ends up taking place in a social media space where I've seen it on both sides, where it's like the pro is like pro. I called it, we talked about this in music where we like the idea of the faves. Like, if this is my fave and that's not your fave, I don't have nothing to say, or we don't have anything to say to each other. And I'm like, baby, that's not the way this works.
That's not how any of this
That's not
works.
life, right? So where I wanna start is, how do we just be better? Like, I'm trying to figure out, how do we be better to each other in the sense of how we interact with each other in kind of these spaces. Because it's hard for us. We already know we have our own stuff when it comes to how we think about each other.
Right.
Yeah.
How do we move forward and just love on each other?
Right.
How do we do that? I don't know. I'm just opening that up as like a topic of discussion. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, even in David's example, when I think of cancel culture, it's about Jussie, if he's canceled or not. But to David's story and his apprehension about giving his opinion was about the worry about his own cancellation.
Cancellation. I don't want to cancel.
It is. That's where I'm stuck at. Why are we canceling each other?
Why are we canceling
for
each other?
Having opinions about
Yeah.
someone who doesn't even know who we are.
Right.
For one.
Right.
And I think that's starting a dangerous precedent for like friendships and just humanity. Like we can disagree, and we can feel differently about issues, about people, without having to eliminate them from our lives so that we don't hear or see that viewpoint. And I understand, like, it's, you don't want to see ignorance. Like, depending on what side you're on, you feel like one opinion is ignorant than the other, so you just don't want to see it, don't want it in your space.
Right.
But are you really helping yourself? Are you helping yourself grow? Are you challenging your thoughts? Are you doing those things by eliminating differing opinions?
Yeah, and I just think it's one of those things, like we were talking before, like if someone's toxic in your life, for whatever reason, toxicity doesn't equate to just differing opinions or perspective. And using the Jussie case as an example, I've always argued that at the end of the day, all this pontification that's going on social media, none of us know what the fuck happened.
No,
None of us.
none
And it
of
was
us.
just humorous to watch the people that believed Jussie from the beginning clicking on articles that were weeks old to prove their point, say, see, he was innocent. And then the people that didn't believe him from the beginning were looking for the same clickbait to say, see, he was lying. And it was almost like this, see, I was right. I told you so. I had to be right. And that's what kind of got on my nerves about that. Like, it wasn't about, it became not about that Jussie was attacked, that nobody's talking about anymore. It's about he was innocent of fabricating this story. And I'm thinking, so now we're celebrating the innocence of him fabricating a story because they don't have proof that he did. So that means that he told the right story, and so now we should be looking for his attackers, right? But no one's talking about that. It's taken on a life of its own where we're just like tearing each other down, and people are posting on Facebook and Twitter and social media like, how many motherfuckers do I have to cancel today? How many motherfuckers am I going to unfriend? So all y'all being mighty silent, so I'm going to unfriend all y'all bitches. And I'm like, I don't understand that mentality. Like, why does it have to be that?
It doesn't.
That toxic with everybody? Because if I disagree with you, or if you say, you know what, I don't know any more about the situation than you do, but my gut is telling me this, your gut is telling you something opposite, that's okay.
And that's okay.
I don't have to hate you for it.
Right, and I think, and I want to bring in Trey, thank you so much for your comment. You said here, I think our community needs a basic lesson on how to debate on a subject and to love each other after.
Right.
I do want to talk about that because I think it leads right into, give me 1 second, I see us turning. Make sure we are still, yes, perfect. So I want to go there because my personal approach to how I interact on social media just generally, quite frankly, is I just want to love on each other more. Like I just am like, it's just one more thing. I don't have to pile on.
You're Cree Summer. You're Cree Summer.
Yeah, like I am Cree Summer. Listen, I don't have to pile on. Let's love on each other.
Right.
However we can. That's been my approach. And I want to bring in one more thing that Trey, you said. I think healthy debating breeds love and strengthens communication between the community.
Yes, absolutely,
I
Trey.
absolutely believe that. And and the reason why I take the approach that I take is because I've also seen how these discussions devolve.
Yes.
And my question is part of that because so much of this takes place in social media and there's no context? Like, if we're sitting here and having a conversation, which we do all the time, we can disagree and talk about it and still like hug each other at the end.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think it's a flippant aspect to social media. And I do think, people bring about this aggression on social media that just doesn't exist in the real world as well.
Right.
So that's why I question whether cancellations actually occur, because I just don't believe some personas on social media as being true to the people who are doing the typing. So I'm
almost like projecting more of a, like I'm more of an aggressive personality, but if you met them outside, they wouldn't be that aggressive.
Right. They wouldn't be that aggressive, and they probably don't believe some of the stuff they type, to be honest. Or they don't practice it well. Because not to bring up R. Kelly, but because of the 30-year struggle our community has had to cancel him, to be honest, there is a struggle with you thinking about morally what someone has done or been accused of doing, and whether your support shows up in whatever form, listening to the music, going to the concerts, whatever. And I feel like it took us a long time to get to where we are now.
And it took the documentary.
It took documentary.
The documentary what tipped people over, but everybody knew all this shit about R. Kelly beforehand. So why did this documentary, all of a sudden everyone's like, oh my God, this is horrific. And I was like, you knew this had gone on long before, or was it just the way that they told it, or kind of how graphic it was? I'm not sure what it was, but it's something that snapped in people at that moment that they said, oh shit, like this is really bad, and I can't tolerate this anymore.
I actually think it comes back to the social media echo chamber. I do think that we respond, and I think in all of these instances, so when we think about folks that are canceled, like I do think it becomes part of this whole narrative that's like a wave because so many of us are on Facebook and so many of us on Twitter. It's like all of this stuff comes at us And even though there may be things that we knew, like it'd be like, baby, none of this stuff is like, this isn't new information.
Right.
Or I also understand that there's nuance to X story, you know, but
Right.
there is it's almost like peer pressure.
Sure.
Yeah, but I do think we are. Well, this could be my own echo chamber. Let me be honest about that. My own echo chamber would tell me that there has been a paradigm shift, and that paradigm shift with social justice and progressivism is intolerant to a lot of the things that we see today. And so now we can cancel R. Kelly. Now we can do these things because there has been a paradigmatic shift to me where things are unacceptable the way they were tolerated before.
Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
I
See, I'm
think the
putting it into
pendulum-
like
That's a
black
good
and
point.
whites, but it's probably more complicated and nuanced. than that.
Yeah, I think the pendulum swings right back, and that's how you get a Trump era.
Right.
And
Ah,
I think
thank you
there's
for
a
this.
danger in going too far on either side.
Right.
But I think that is what's occurring, and we're just sitting in the middle of it while the momentum is still going, and I don't know if we're swinging back this way now, or
Right,
are we still
right.
going this way. So I think this falls under all of like what we're seeing, because gay marriage, all this stuff, that progressive things that just happen so quickly, and there has to be a counter to that.
And there always is.
Yeah.
There always is. I want to bring in a couple more comments. So first of all, James, sorry I missed this earlier. You said Team Kamala. So that's what that's not from the Counter Narrative Project. I'm only reading James's comment that was on the screen. And Trey said, that's a great point, Doctor. That was to your point earlier. And John Jordan said, hi, John. And Trey made a point here. He's like, waves of consciousness drive certain courses of change when the time is right.
Sure.
And I feel like that's what we're experiencing now. And I think my question is, how do we, understanding that, right? I think it requires us to be more diligent in our critique because of how much information comes in and how quickly, like, it's almost like we have to retrain ourselves on how we.
Yeah, and it's also like a attention deficit disorder culture where we focus on one thing and it's like, oh my God, squirrel, and we go and we follow something else. And so we don't really hang on it for so long because Jussie splashed yesterday, but something else gonna splash today and tomorrow, and then we'll forget about it until it resurfaces again. And it becomes this thing, and I think the concern I have is that, there's all this kind of cancel culture. So who's invited to the barbecue? Who's disinvited to the barbecue? Can Kevin Hart come? Can Whoopi
Right.
Goldberg come? Bill Cosby has been canceled. And there are still people that kind of are iffy about that as well. There's still people who defend R. Kelly. And I think at the end of the day, it's just a matter of what you align yourself with. And I think if we bring it down to, or bring it to our level as black gay men and bring it back to Jussie, what I think for a lot of people, at least that's what I've been listening to, Jussie represents somebody who is a celebrity, who is out. He doesn't mince words that he's gay. He's a proud black man. He does a lot of activism for HIV/AIDS, all these other things. And I think we carry a lot of trauma with us. So it becomes an allegiance thing that, okay, he's made it, he's representing us. We have to believe whatever he says, and we have to stand by him no matter what, which is actually a very Republican-like tenet where Trump can do whatever he wants. The one thing about the Republican Party is that they stay on message with him. They stay and they back him up. You can see how far Trump has had to go for some people to kind of say, okay, dude, that's too far. But if that was like Obama, the Democrats would have left Obama a long time ago. And I'm not making it political. I don't want to make it political in that sense, but it's almost like this celebrity culture and who you like, and if your ideals align with who they are, you're gonna turn a blind eye to other things, or you're gonna always give them the benefit of the doubt. There were people that gave Bill Cosby the benefit of the doubt, no matter what, because he was Cliff Huxtable on TV, and because of all the wonderful donations he made to HBCUs, and because he was a graduate at Temple University, and because he did all these wonderful things. people were willing to forgive that despite all the evidence that kind of piled up. And it took a while, and I guess everybody has to have their own room for whatever cancel culture is. If you decide you're going to cancel somebody, we all have different thresholds of what we have to deal with somebody. But that's based on our implicit bias, how much we identify with somebody, how much we see of ourselves in them, because none of us want to get canceled ourselves. And so when it comes from this kind of like celebrity, but then it comes down to like the individual level of how we're treating each other on social media, that's where I get a little concerned, because I have so much respect for a lot of the brothers that I interact with on social media, and I would never unfriend them or cancel them because their viewpoint differed from mine. And I've had very healthy, robust disagreements with people, and we've loved it. And then later on, I'll send them a direct message, man, I love you, and I hope you're doing well, checking in on you. And they'll do the same with me. And that's what I love. But it seems it's taken... a lot of things have taken kind of an ugly twist where people just really revel in announcing how many people they've canceled.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do about that, because to me it's such negative energy, and we already have enough negative energy going in. It's almost like we've internalized it all, and then we just, like they say in psychology, like you get this internal energy and then you transfer it on someone else. Like you could be having a good day, Damien. You come up to me and I'm having a real shitty day. And you'd be like, David, how you doing today? I was like, my day was completely fucked up. And then I bring your high down here, and all of a sudden you're in my space, and it's kind of like this transference of energy. And I almost feel we're taking all this toxicity from the world, and then we're directing it back at each other for some reason, and I don't know why that is. And I don't know what the answers are, what we can do about it.
One, yes, you are friends with some people that I personally have canceled. So it's interesting that you say that. Off camera, I might bring that back up. But the second part that
they have canceled me, or I've canceled them.
I personally have canceled, and I don't know why you're friends with them. That's what I mean. They should be canceled.
They should be canceled by you, and I'm offended that you ain't canceled them.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Go ahead.
So the other part of it though is there are things people, these entities, celebrities do that is possibly part of their karma. You know what I mean? So, for example, while you were talking, I also thought about Chrisette Michele. Dear Chrisette Michele. There was an article in the Washington Post.
She's
I don't know if you all read it.
Yeah, that was rough.
A couple of, like last month maybe.
Yeah.
I read that.
She's doing her best to come back into our graces. Or whatnot.
She's canceled.
Sis, you canceled.
You canceled, right?
And I'm like... Girl, as I'm reading the article, I'm screaming, and I'm like, no, girl.
And see, here's the thing. Like, I think this is where the complicated part comes in, right?
You didn't cancel her.
I was never on team...
Chrisette
no shade,
Michele.
I was never on team Chrisette. I didn't have no beef with her.
Right.
Like, there was a couple bops up in there, so for me, it was like, I mean, okay, I may have an opinion on her doing this performance.
Right.
However, I am not in her business. I don't do anything like that. And what I do know is, to the point of the karma piece, so my perspective is like, for so many of these folks, is like, I have to stick to what I believe, and I have to support the people that I support. And I don't even remember, I don't think I posted a thing about her. Like, at that time, I was like, I mean... this doesn't sound like a good idea to me. And if I was on her team, I would say, babe.
Right. No. And the article says all the people did tell her that, and she was still.
No.
Right.
Anyway, but I think certain people have to sit in it.
You have to sit in it.
You have to sit in it.
In your
and
decisions.
it's your decision, your bed that you made, lie in it. And I think this conversation, we're kind of coming from, I don't even know how to put it, but the ones who are at the bottom, who join the canceling, and then the person or the entity is up here. But sometimes I feel like the entity or the person up here just gotta sit. Cosby, you need to sit in prison. Chrisette, girl, it is what it is.
And you gotta deal with
You just
that.
gotta deal. So I think a part of it is, unfortunately, social media is a new, phenomenon. But people have been doing things and dealing with the repercussions.
Absolutely. And I think
it is what it is.
And going back to kind of, I'm going to bring in some comments and we'll go back to that point.
Yeah.
So, So Trey mentioned that the trauma thing is a deep pool. Thank you. That is an amazing quote. The trauma thing is a deep pool. It is. And also, generally, those who have a high cancel count have been canceled themselves. Interesting point. Jay asked, as an aside, David, if you were dating. That's a comment on the thing that came in as well. But anyway.
Not at the moment.
So this idea, right, of social media and how do we, or what will you commit to individually? Looking back, hindsight is 2020. We have come through the wave of our most recent with the Jussie Smollett thing, right? Seeing what it did to our community, my question is, what will you do differently, if anything, in your interactions? Like, what does that look like for y'all?
You know, I think Charles Stevens does a lot of good stuff, and I like his take on that, because you guys are very similar in kind of your takes on stuff, because you don't want to go too far and you actually want to bring up discourse. So for me, I think I would try to model myself around the approach that you guys take, which is you're curious and you want to hear more and you want to actually have a discussion. And I can watch Charles sometimes when he does this, and I know Charles has an opinion, as I know you have an opinion, but you guys will sit back and just give space for us to heal, for us to discuss, for us to debate, for us to possibly argue, and for us to heal at the end of the day. And so I think whether it's a big space like we have an event, or it's a small space like we're having now, or it's just between 2 or 3 people and you can come in and have this discussion, I think for us as Black gay men, it has to be something where we're intentional about not tearing each other down any more than we're already torn down by society in general. So to me, I'll do whatever I can to like give a loving expression to somebody else, or just listen to what they have to say, even if everybody else on social media has canceled them. I want to let this brother know that his opinion is valid.
Right.
And I'm not going to be petty like other people. No, I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean? And I just think it's hard to do, because it's in theory, it's great. But it's hard to do in practice, because, you know, I get opinionated just as everybody else. Yeah. I was listening to Chrisette Michele the other day. She's on one of my playlists. And when her song Epiphany came on, I was like, oof. And then I went to the next one and I was like, oh my God, that has nothing to do. I used to love that song.
Right.
But because of what she did, I just don't feel her anymore. And that's, you know, take it or leave it, whether you agree with me canceling her or not. But I'm just not.
It's your decision.
I'm not supportive of her. And if she has a concert and there's only 10 people in the audience,
and the tickets were $20,
I'm like, sis, whatever, I don't care. So I just move on. So, but I try to make it so that we're not tearing down ourselves. With celebrities, there are different things. We're all going to have different opinions, but I just don't want us to be canceling each other like that. And so maybe on social media, I'll be more intentional about reaching out to somebody, maybe saying, does it really require that you have to cancel somebody because of this? And try to engage them, or at least get them to look at themselves a little bit like that on a smaller level. That's what I would do.
Yeah, for me, even before cancel culture, or outside of cancel culture, I did a clean sweep on my social media to I only follow or am friends with people I know in the real world. And I think a lot of the dismissiveness is because people are just followers or friends, and you don't even know them anyway.
Right.
So it don't even matter. That
So
you
you're
click
not going to see them, and there's no
unfollow. It's no consequences. The people on my list are people that I know for real.
Right.
So seeing their opinions and my compassion for them limits me from being so dismissive and so quick. Right. So that's one thing. I think the other thing is, it goes back to what I said earlier. Like, I feel like cancel culture is a flippant, hyperbolous thing. And I'm just not buying a lot of it. Lauryn Hill's still touring. You know, a lot of these people are still doing their thing. And
folks still eating certain brands of chicken. They still eating that chicken. That's what they're doing. They're still sipping on those shakes, and they still eating those chicken nuggets with that sauce. So, I don't know how that sauce tastes, but they still eating that chicken.
The Polynesian sauce. I know about that.
I've heard. Asking for a friend. Is it good? Right.
So,
I'm with you. I understand. And so we have a couple of comments that I do want to bring in. thank you so much for this question. So Trey, this is a different Trey. This is Trey Payadu asks, is there no space for redemption culture?
What does that? I'm trying to figure out what does that mean. When someone's been canceled, then we can bring them back in.
And Trey, I want you to, if you're still watching, please. That's what I take that as, right?
Yeah.
Is, and I personally think there is. I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Actually, we have to practice that.
Absolutely.
I think we have to give space for people to redeem themselves. I mean, if it is, it depends. And I will say this with the caveat, right? So this is in my personal life, I can choose to make a different decision, right? If it's a person that's toxic and I need to keep them away, there may not be that I may not as easily give someone that opportunity.
Right.
I still might, but it was going to be more work, right? But I think in general, yes, for me personally, I think there is space for redemption.
Of course.
I mean, I've always felt like American culture loves a comeback story.
Absolutely.
But redemption means something is redeemable. So, is R. Kelly redeemable? Like,
But
I don't.
It also depends on, to me, it depends on generations.
Yeah.
It's very much generational. And it's also dependent on implicit bias due to race, gender, culture, so on and so forth. Because for some reason, he popped in my mind Michael Vick. The football player who played with the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta loved him. When that dog fighting story went down, and that's the culture of where he grew up in Virginia, he got thrown under the bus.
Yes.
And for some people, he's paid his dues.
Absolutely.
He's paid back also. He did his jail time. He's been touring the country for like years doing stuff about animal rights and stuff. For some people at PETA and for a lot of white people in general, they still have canceled him. And there's no way to redeem themselves. But then you look at Robert Downey Jr. He can do all the drugs he wants in the world. Donald Trump can do all this stuff that he wants in the world. But there's ability to redeem himself. So I think it has a lot to do with how you personally identify with that person, which is unfortunate because I think we should be able to step outside of who we are from a socioeconomic, racial basis and say, okay, that person, they made a mistake. But they're back, and I'm going to support them, or I'm going to give them a chance, because I do think it's about second chances. I think you're right, and all of us deserve a second chance. All of us have fucked up at some point in our lives, done mean things or done inconsiderate things, and people have forgiven us, and that's what it takes.
I think that's important, and
Trey,
that's exactly what Trey meant. It meant yes, can someone be redeemed? And all of us agree, absolutely. So we're going to end in a second, but I do want to bring in a couple more comments before we do that. Jay asks, why do we not separate art from the personal opinion?
Right.
We like them because of their talent and music and not what they believe. So that's one thing. And let me see. Trey said, I'm like Nancy P. They not worth my energy. That's Trey Sam's world. That's hilarious. But going back to Jay, I know that for me personally, I will say that this is always a delicate balancing act. And I'm going to bring up two names that this applies to all the time.
Right.
James Brown and Marvin Gaye.
Right.
Notoriously, like, the stories of what they did to the women in their lives are some of the worst things in the world. So yes, I know that I personally have had to figure out how to navigate their catalogs and their work and what that work and what not them as artists but their work means in my life. So I have definitely had to negotiate that for me personally. Some people don't make that negotiation. I know that I've had to figure out how do I approach stuff like that. But going back to this thing, but do we not separate art from the personal opinion?
I think it also depends. I go back to what I said before. It depends on how you identify. So like LeBron James, white host on Fox News, says shut up and play. Shut up and play basketball. You don't get paid for your political opinion. Yet she doesn't say anything when Kid Rock or Ted Nugent are spouting their political opinions because they align with hers. And so again, it's kind of, we surround ourselves with cultures of people who agree with us, who think the same way that we do, who won't contrast with us, who won't challenge us. And to me, like, the definition of like a soulmate or a true friend is the one that's going to call you on your shit.
I agree.
And who's the one who's going to challenge you. And that's why I was trying to argue with people, and going back to the Jussie thing, like, people were like, well, you just need to accept, what he says and this, that, and the other. And I said, no. If I'm actually being a true friend, or if I want to love on Jesse, I would say, dude, this story if I was talking to him, I'd say, dude, this story had a lot of holes. Like, what happened? Like, what really happened? And a true friend would be so concerned to actually put a mirror up to yourself rather than just be, well, he's my friend, so I'm not going to question
Very true.
it.
Very
So
true.
I just think, like, if Damien has a piece of chicken in his tooth, like, I'm not gonna sit there and smile while Damien's talking to me,
Like,
and he's got a piece of chicken in his teeth.
baby.
I'm gonna say, Damien, you got a piece of chicken in your
too.
teeth, because when he goes home and he looks in the mirror, he sees
like,
that
"Why
piece of
didn't
chicken. He's like, I've been grinning in front of my friends all day, and ain't nobody told me I had some chicken in my teeth.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's just stupid. Like, to me, I think when you care for somebody, you care enough to give them tough love. You care enough to give them real. You care enough to call them on their shit. You care enough about them to challenge them. If you don't care about me, you're just gonna let me go about my shit and do whatever.
Yeah. Only real quick
Yeah.
though, the only thing to that is I know in my group of friends, everyone has their role and their place, and there are people who are the ride or dies who are like unconditionally, no matter what you do, I got you.
I got you.
Then there are the ones who are the checkers who
Yeah.
be like, but you was wrong.
Right.
So some people.
Well, can you do like both? Can you say you was wrong, but I'm still gonna ride with you,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna call you on your shit, but I'm still your boy.
Yeah.
But I think what you both
And you
are talking
disagreed
about,
with me, so you're canceled. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
which y'all, and we're gonna wrap up in a second. Thank you, Alvin, for keeping us on time.
Sorry, Alvin.
What we are going to, but I think we're now going back to talking though. Like what we just said is, listen, when we have those moments, we have to get with our folks that we love on, and be like, okay, I heard what you said. Let's talk.
Yeah.
And I know that in my personal life, I've done that. And so I'm gonna end us here. So thank you both.
It's a great
Thank you. Thank all of you for joining us for Revolutionary Health. Once again, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. I already see one like. I see a lot of people watching. You can all hit the like button since you're still here. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button too. Follow us on Facebook at Counter Narrative Project. Follow us on Twitter at Building Desire and on Instagram at IG. Come back here next Wednesday. So the topic next week, y'all, is how music saved my life.
All
That's a good
right.
topic.
All right.
Come back for how music saved my life. So make sure you send us a message too on any other social media. Talk to us about how music saved your life, and come back next week and have the live conversation with us. Thank you so much for tuning into Revolutionary Health. Have a good evening.